Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a horror film named Newman. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with a show of a smelly girl named Newman, who was one of the most good-looking women in the village. Because of her beauty, many people often came to propose marriage to her. However, most of the smelly and ugly men were driven away by her father, as Newman was in love with her peeping neighbor Tom and would certainly not marry anyone else. Moreover, the two were preparing for their wedding, but there was a bearded man named Beardy who was determined to marry Newman, so he sought help from a local priest named Uncle Psychic. He was willing to use any means necessary to win Newman's heart, but actually her hormones. Under their plan, Uncle Psychic led Beardy to a place near Newman's house, told him to silently recite a spell and pinch off the incense. After that, all he had to do was wait for Newman to change her mind. Beardy was overjoyed by their evil acts. At this time, Newman received a message about a loan, stating that she owed nearly $50 million. If she couldn't pay it back, debt collectors would come knocking at her door for the collection. Newman, with a heavy heart, called her twin sister, asking if she was the one who had taken out the loan. It turns out, Sister had indeed used Newman's identity card, but all the money had been spent on organizing parties for their father. Everyone at home thought Sister was doing well in the city, so they always asked her to foot the bill for various things. In reality, Sister was just a waitress at a cafe. In order to maintain her lie, she had to take out loans and pretend to be wealthier than she was. Learning the news, Sister told Newman not to worry about the money and that she would find a way to solve the debt. After that, Newman went out to entertain the guests, while her father was hosting another party with Sister's money. Just then, he saw Beardy outside the door and walked towards him with a smile. However, Newman simply mistook him for a guest. When she heard that Beardy didn't know her father, she turned around and went back home. The next day, debt collection messages came one after another. With high interest, the amount owed had risen to $70 million now, which made Newman extremely anxious. After much distress, she called Tom and asked if she could borrow some money for an urgent matter. Although $70 million was no small sum, Tom found it strange, but still agreed to help raise the money for her. That night, Newman encountered the loan collectors, who made her feel very afraid due to their aggressive behavior. At that moment, Beardy happened to drive by and shielded Newman behind his beard and muscles. The debt collectors were actually his henchmen. Beardy pretended to comfort Newman and offered to give her a ride home. Newman felt indebted to him, so she reluctantly got in Beardy's hormone-smelly car. However, while on the way, Beardy got tired of driving the car and kept touching her sexy body, intending to drive her hormones. Newman tried to break free from its shaggy beard, and they struggled in the car. As a result, they collided with a passing Tesla motorcycle. Beardy not only refused to apologize, but he also got out of the car and yelled at the motorcyclist. Seizing the opportunity, Newman escaped and hid in the woods, covering up her smell. She called her sister for help, but her sister was busy taking an order and couldn't answer the phone. When she finally called Newman back, Newman didn't mute the phone, which led Beardy to hear the ringtone. Newman tried to run away, but Beardy chased after her smell relentlessly. She was eventually tackled to the ground, but she kicked him and ran towards the highway, only to be hit by a truck. Beardy saw what happened and quickly fled his messy beard away, leaving Newman to die by the roadside. The girl's wedding turned into a funeral, and Uncle Psychic was in charge of her burial. When evening came, he suddenly realized that he had forgotten to untie the pokong rope on Newman's shroud, which could possibly cause her to turn into a zombie. He became uneasy, and coincidentally, a gust of cold wind blew through, causing the windows to open suddenly. Curious, he looked outside and saw a white figure resembling a shroud floating by. He tried to reassure himself that it was just an illusion when someone knocked on the door. Opening it, he saw an old lady who was wearing a white nightgown and wanted to borrow money from him. Uncle Psychic quickly chased her away, telling her not to scare people in the middle of the night. Just as he was about to go back to his room for rest, he saw a pair of green eyes in the dark, but the eyes disappeared when he turned on the light. Gathering his courage, Uncle Psychic cuddled at the foot of the bed when he suddenly heard Newman's voice. Terrified, he hid in the bathroom, only to see bloody footprints following him inside. In desperation, he climbed over a low wall to escape, only to see Newman when he turned around. He ran into the living room and locked the door. Newman's voice gradually faded away, and just as he let out a sigh of relief, a cabinet nearby suddenly opened, revealing Newman's head. Uncle Psychic fell to the ground in fright. A strong wind blew through the room, and Newman's grave appeared in the living room. She sat there, dazed, and told Uncle Psychic that he forgot to untie the pokong rope. Terrified, Uncle Psychic covered his eyes. When he dared to look again, the room had returned to normal, with only a layer of dirt on the carpet. Somewhere else, Newman's mother tried to persuade Sister to stay. They had already lost one daughter and couldn't bear to let Sister wander alone in the city. However, Sister didn't want to stay in the countryside. The father was heartbroken over the loss of his daughter, and it was difficult for him to sleep at night. He was weeping while looking at a photo when he suddenly heard Newman's voice. He went outside, calling out to her in the strong wind, and fell ill the next day. Bedridden, he had no choice but to rest. Soon after, Beardy brought his men to collect the debt, which had now accumulated to 90 million with interest included. Tom stopped them, deciding not to inform Newman's parents about this matter. He could only go to Newman's sister for help. Tom then browsed through Sister's social media profile to find her workplace, only to discover that she was the one who truly owed the debt. Beardy and his henchmen not only wanted to collect the debt from Newman's family, but they also went to trouble Uncle Psychic. His spells were useless against them. Seeing the debt collectors approaching from afar, Uncle Psychic quickly climbed up a tree to hide like a pig and asked his police friend to deal with them. Newman appeared behind Uncle Psychic, scaring the debt collectors, who were terrified of the zombie and drove away from the village in a hurry. Uncle Psychic decided to stay at a friend's house for the night. The scene shifts to the cafe, where Tom waited for Sister to finish work. He escorted her home and advised her not to cling to her pride and suffer. However, Sister loved her glamorous life, even if it was just a fragile facade. The debt issue was urgent, and Tom promised to help, but on one condition: Sister had to take over Newman's small shop and stay in the village to accompany her parents. Sister looked through Newman's recipes and unexpectedly found a list of Newman's dreams. Each one was simple and unpretentious. Deeply moved, Sister decided to make a change. Meanwhile, Uncle Psychic sought out Tom and confessed that he had forgotten to untie the poke-on rope on Newman, which caused her to become a zombie that haunted people in the village. Tom didn't believe his psychic bullshit and went to the graveyard with Uncle Psychic at night to peep at the zombie version of Newman for himself. They found nothing, so Tom simply left Uncle Psychic behind. Meanwhile, Beardy and his henchmen continued to cause trouble, but they saw Sister wearing Newman's clothes and mistook her for an evil spirit seeking revenge, so they quickly fled in panic. Beardy, feeling guilty, could only seek help from Uncle Psychic, hoping for a talisman or something to protect himself. Hearing this, Uncle Psychic took off his bracelet and gave it to Beardy, who finally felt relieved. On the other hand, Sister was awakened in the middle of the night by strange noises. She got up to check the living room, but didn't notice Newman beside her. She saw the door being blown open by the wind, and as she approached, she unexpectedly came face to face with a zombie, causing her to faint on the spot. When she woke up, she told Tom that she had seen the deceased Newman. At the same time, Newman caused trouble in the town square, and the residents were frightened and scattered like scared chickens. However, Newman only targeted Beardy and kept calling out his name. Everyone panicked and rushed into the restrooms to hide. Beardy and his henchmen also hid, shivering and not daring to come out. Newman suddenly entered the restroom, causing everyone to flee in a swarm. Beardy and his men got into their car and tried to escape as fast as a Ferrari horse, but the Tesla driver accidentally touched a cold corpse, which turned out to be Newman. In a panic, he drove the car to the lakeside, and they all quickly jumped into the lake to make them soaking wet, hoping that the ghost was not waterproof. After waiting for Newman to leave, they climbed ashore, only for her to reappear as if she had anticipated their move. Just then, a chubby man punched through Newman's stomach, but his hand got entangled in disgusting intestines. Then, his hand went out of control, hitting his own face. Newman turned to deal with another henchman, spraying diabetic blood at his face as an attack. Now, Beardy remembered his protective bracelet and quickly showed it to scare Newman away. The zombie incident caused panic among the villagers, and a video of it was uploaded on Daniel CC Movie Channel. Tom finally believed Uncle Psychic's words and went to talk to him at night. However, he encountered Beardy bullying Uncle Psychic. As he tried to intervene, Newman rushed out and grabbed Beardy's neck, but spared his beard, lifting him into the air. Unable to contain himself, Tom called out to his girlfriend. Newman looked at him deeply, the corpse spots on her face gradually fading away, revealing a faint smile. Tom watched Newman disappear before his peeping eyes, feeling immense pain inside. He rode his Tesla bike to tell Sister that he had also seen Newman, but she seemed to be constantly haunting Beardy. Sister couldn't help but wonder if Newman's death was related to Beardy's debt collection. Sister felt increasingly guilty, realizing that all the problems were due to her loans. She decided to confess to her father. With courage, she told her family that she had always been jealous of her favored sister, which was why she deceived everyone by claiming to have found a good job in the city. She thought that only then would her parents pay more attention to her. Her father always asked sister for money, but she couldn't afford all the bills, so she used Newman's identity to take out risky loans, which led to her tragic death. The family finally resolved their issues, sobbing together. Meanwhile, Uncle Psychic also took the opportunity to apologize for the mistakes at the funeral. The next day, accompanied by everyone, they exhumed Newman's body and untied the pokong robe on her head. They prayed together, hoping that Newman could rest in peace. Seeing the crisis resolved, Beardy immediately brought his men over to settle the score, claiming that since Newman had been killed by a truck, her debt should be repaid by sister. Uncle Psychic noticed something was off because he wondered how Beardy knew that Newman had been killed by a truck. Coupled with the fact that the zombie had been haunting Beardy, it was possible that he had been at the scene the night Newman was killed. Uncle Psychic became more certain and punched Beardy in his beard, causing Beardy to become furious. He ordered his men to hold Uncle Psychic and Tom back, then started to hit them randomly. He warned Sister that the debt issue was not over yet and then left with his henchmen. In the evening, Tom practiced peeping as his hobby and soon discovered that Sister was missing. He hurriedly called Uncle Psychic to help search for her. At this time, Sister had gone alone to Beardy's territory to avenge the deceased Newman. Tom arrived at the scene to stop Sister, but Beardy took the opportunity to grab her. Sister kicked him using her stinky feet, and a fight ensued between the two sides. Sister was pinned against the car, ready to be harassed, but she called out Newman's name. Newman seemed to sense that her family was in trouble and miraculously appeared. She clung to Beardy, who was frightened, and ran towards the woods. Just then, a truck driver made an emergency stop as he was passing by, causing a wooden stick to pierce through Beardy, and Newman emerged victorious. Having avenged her, she turned into smoke and disappeared into thin air, without traces of her strong body smell. Afterward, Tom used his savings to help Sister repay the money, and peace was restored to Newman's family. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.